everybody, and welcome to Epic Everyday, our weekday podcast for busy, stressed out Christians who want to find freedom and abundance and peace. I'm Liz Frericks, and this is my husband, Evan.
Good morning.
And we're so glad you guys are here with us on this wonderful Thursday.
Yes, we are. Thank you so much for spending part of your day with us. Please share this episode with someone if you find it to be interesting or thought-provoking.
So, since it's Thursday, our CSC of the day is Being Connected. And there are two different books that I wanted to talk about. We're going through literature, talking about, each of our CSCs. So, being connected to God, being connected to other people is part of today. Mm-hmm. So, first I thought I would share a little bit of one of my projects that I'm in the middle of writing.
A little bit of a sneak peek here.
Yeah, a little bit of a sneak peek. So I am writing a fantasy series. The first one is tentatively titled Teloria, the Book of the Stars.
Ooh.
There are people who have magic in the series. There are several different kinds of magic. I'm just going to read a little excerpt of how magic works in this world. So the main character's name is Elaine, and she's a princess who finds out that she has magic and that she's been using it in some ways most of her life. And then one of the other characters is Seraphina, who is several hundred years old and is a sorceress in her own right and has been a sorceress for a long time. So it's her job to train Elaine in magic, and she doesn't really want to do it. But anyway, so this is her explanation. Long ago, people split magic into different categories based on what a person could accomplish. Elemental magics, for example. One person might have magic with one element, or all the elements. I knew of someone who had weather magic. Mind magics for those who could move things with a thought, or communicate over long distances with their mind, or feel what others were feeling. Plant magics, and those people with enough magic to be considered a witch or a wizard, people who could do most magics, although they often specialized in one or the other. Seraphina studied the fire. Fewer people possess magic today, and many who do go untrained. Perhaps people are different than they used to be, or perhaps the lack of belief in magic affects people's ability to use it. Today, most people simply categorize magic into 4 categories, Seraphina continued briskly. Witches and wizards, mages, sorcerers and sorceresses, and magicians. Witches and wizards do magic from within. They use their own power to accomplish magic. Mages harness the power of a weaker magical being, or surrender themselves to the power of a stronger one. Magicians surrender themselves to Kuemo, who is the equivalent of the devil, and use his power to accomplish the tasks he sets for them. Sorcerers and sorceresses surrender themselves to Kados and use his power to accomplish his work in the world. Elaine listened, noting Seraphina's tone changed as though she'd fallen into a well-worn lecture. How many people had she trained in magic? Different magical actions require varying amounts of power. The scope of the action calls for greater or lesser power. So many of the small magics have been lost over the years. People only bother to train the witches and wizards, but the small magics required greater skill. It's the difference between the person who can force their way through a task and one who uses finesse and skill to do it well, she said sadly. Anyway, they go through and talk about, more about how magic works and the different kinds of magics. But the main point that I wanted to talk about is how connection works here. Mm-hmm. Because in this world, not everybody, in this world, lots of people have magic. They have magic to varying degrees, whether they have a small magic or whether they're competent in most magics.
But a lot of people don't believe in magic.
Yeah, people don't usually believe in magic.
Yeah.
They kind of got rid of it. They threw the baby out with the bathwater when some magic backfired.
Sure.
So, but the people who hook their own magical ability into another being's strength are able to accomplish amazing things. I mean, Elaine on her own is able to accomplish, some teleportation. Like, there's one scene where she teleports several different slaves to a place of safety. However, doing so almost kills her.
Sure.
So she ends up having 3 different people have to pour energy back into her in order for her to survive.
Yeah.
So
because she was using her own power exclusively.
Right, exactly. But then later on, she's able to transport slaves using the power of the air around her, because she figures out that she can tap into the power that's in the air. And so she can transport a few more slaves. But Seraphina, who is tapped into Kados, which is the first god, she's tapped into his power. She can move all the slaves pretty easily without breaking a sweat. Not because she's that strong magically herself, but because she's tapped into the first god's power.
Yeah.
And that's what we want to do. We want to have that connection with God, because that's where we get our power. Yes, we're capable of doing things on our own to a certain extent, but when we tap into God, our capabilities just grow so exponentially.
It is true that we have a lot of options of different power sources to kind of tap into.
Right.
And that, or we can try to act on our own. That's a good example.
Yes. The other book that I wanted to talk about is The Hawk and the Dove by Penelope Wilcock. Amazing, amazing, amazing book. If you haven't read it, go pick it up.
Yeah, this seems like one that not a lot of people know about, but yeah, it is phenomenal. It's very, very powerful.
Yes. So it's these stories about monks from, I want to say
16s.
1600s, somewhere in that general vicinity. And it talks about several of the monks. Like, you get to know all the different monks that live at this monastery. But the first story is about Father Columba. And I will go more into detail tomorrow. But he ends up getting attacked. People from his past come and, they break his leg to where the shin bone is just shattered. Mm-hmm. And so he can never walk properly again. He always has to use a crutch, and they break his hands.
Yeah, it's an act of vengeance. Like, he is an artist and an intelligent man, and they just destroy his body so he can't do art anymore, and it almost works, breaking his very soul.
But as he comes out of that, his connection to other people is just completely transformed. Mm-hmm. And I just wanted to read this little summary at the end. It says, "In the end, though, it became apparent to all the community that Father Peregrine," well, they call him Father Peregrine. His name is Father Columba, but they call him Father Peregrine because he's more like a hawk than a dove.
Yeah.
That Father Peregrine had a new authority about him now. For whereas before he had ruled with a natural strength and ability over other men, now he was learning to cling to the grace of God and find his strength there. He had commanded their respect before, and it had been based on the fear of his power over them. He earned their respect in a new way now, respect mingled with admiration and love, because he had found out for himself what it was to be weak enough to need his brother's help, and his authority over them now was born of humble understanding. And these are all short stories that are told by this mother to her daughter. Great Uncle Edward had many tales to tell of Father Peregrine after the terrible thing that had happened to him. Uncle Edward said it crippled his body, but it set his spirit free. He said that most men would have become bitter and closed in, but Peregrine did not. He used his own weakness as a bridge to cross over to his brothers when they too were weak. Having lost everything, he gave his weakness to God, and it became his strength. In a way, all the tales are one tale, the tale of how God's power is found in weakness. But that is the story of the whole of life if you know how to read it right.
Yeah, I love that. And I love books that point that out. I mean, that's all these books that we're mentioning this week do that. They're highlighting, it's fiction, but it's highlighting this real stuff in our real lives.
Right.
Helping us to understand how God
about
works.
The world and God and ourselves. Yeah, I love that, though, that before he's this very aristocratic man, and they respect him because he is amazing and smart, and he can do all this stuff.
Yeah, persuasive and powerful and kind of intimidating.
But then they love him after he's so broken and so humbled, and that allows him to connect to them in a way that makes all of them stronger together. And that's the kind of strength that comes from connection. We need our connection to God to empower us, and we need our connection to each other to help each other grow and become more fully ourselves.
And a big takeaway from this week is hopefully that, the things we are putting into our brain, whether it's reading a book or watching a movie or something, really matters. And something that Liz and I love to do is to find redemptive themes and to consume things with redemptive themes, whether they're intentional by the storyteller or not. Sometimes in secular media, there are accidental redemptive themes because we just can't help but use them to tell a great story.
Right. One of our very favorite movies is Speed Racer. And there are just some amazing themes in there. I mean, that's another one of being who you are. There's this great line where the
connection. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, well, the dad says, you can't change the world driving a car.
It doesn't work that way.
Yeah, or you can't drive the car and change the world. And then it turns out that it does work that way, that he transforms the world. At the end, they're like, it's a whole new world.
Right. Yeah, this is I think it's 2008 or 2009 Speed Racer. It didn't really do very well, but it is our favorite movie. And it's, again, kind of like we were talking about on Wednesday, where Speed's thing is being a really great driver. And he even acknowledges that. He's like, I don't know what to do, but I know I can drive a car, so I guess I'll do that. And God's not in that movie either, but it's like, the pieces are in place to where if everybody does what they're supposed to do, it overcomes evil.
Right. Yeah, it's just amazing. And yeah, he gains so much strength from his family because his family supports him in an amazing way. And not because they're so good at it. It's because they've failed and they've learned how to do it better.
Yeah.
It's great. I know. All right. Well, we could talk about this all day, but we'll stop there.
Yeah. Let us know if hopefully this is so interesting to us that, we're talking about some of our favorite things here. And if it's interesting, please do let us know. If maybe check out one of these books and then let us know what you think.
As always, pick whether today is going to be awesome or not, whether you're going to strengthen those neural pathways to look for the good things or to look for the bad things in your life. Because, like we were just reading out of The Hawk and the Dove, those weaknesses can become strengths. But we have to do the work to make them so. We love you guys, and we are praying for you. Thanks to everybody that's been listening to the show and sharing the show. We really appreciate it. If you have found this episode helpful or interesting, please do share it. And come back tomorrow, and we are going to talk we're going to talk some more about The Hawk and the Dove. And we're going to talk a little bit about James Thurber.
That's right. Yeah, looking forward to it.
All right, you guys, have an awesome Thursday.